Hey guys, and welcome back to Brexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, we've just had the end of the 4-day Jubilee, where my favourite part of the whole Jubilee was Boris Johnson turning up to St Paul's Cathedral, where he was horribly booed. If you right, it was, it was quite horrible what happened to Boris Johnson. Right, the crowd was very hostile, and this was a crowd of people who were celebrating. They was out in the sunshine celebrating the Queen's 70 years on the throne. Right? Only for Boris Johnson to turn up to St Paul's Cathedral, right, and get horribly booed. You could not make. Well, actually, if Boris Johnson had any sense, yeah, he would have slipped in through one of the back doors. If he had, and then slipped out through one of the back doors, because the same crowd was waiting for him when he came out, and they gave him the same treatment again, right? Which can't be doing very much, very it can't be doing much for him, right? Because obviously he could be facing. It looks like he's going to be facing a vote of no confidence in him, and that could be today, Monday. That could be today, right? Because apparently there are 64. Remember that number, 64, right? There are 64, right, letters that have gone in already. So he could face a vote of no confidence. But the strange thing with Boris Johnson, if Boris Johnson was to win his vote of confidence by one vote, right, he would cling on for dear life. Whereas every other leader has gone. Thatcher was gone after a couple of days. Theresa May was gone after 6 months. John Major lost his next election. Right, but that's what happens with the vote. Once they have their vote of confidence, because normally they win it. Right, so there's normally enough in there to make them win it. I don't know why, but and for Boris Johnson, I can't understand why any Tory would want to keep Boris Johnson in post. I mean, that for me, that's just suicidal, But I would like to see Boris Johnson stay till next, but I don't think the country can take any more of this bullshit what Boris Johnson is dishing out. But right, so that could happen to him today. But right, in St Paul's Cathedral, right, if you heard the speech that Boris Johnson had to go and read out, yeah, it was all about like honesty and integrity, and right, and Boris Johnson must have read through this and thought to himself, "You bunch of bastards, how the fuck could you make me read this out?" Right, because right. I think that someone was playing a real practical joke on him, right? With his speech, because everything that come out of his mouth in his speech here was the opposite of him. Everything in that speech was just completely the opposite of Boris Johnson, right? And that's the reason why, right? This country, right, is in a complete mess. It's in absolute chaos because of the clown that you racist fools voted in to run this country. And also, welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages you sent me, and a special thanks here to everyone who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages, I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all your messages for definite. And it seems that we have just finished the Silver Jubilee, so we have all had like 4 days off. Well, no, most people haven't had 4 days off. I've had to have 4 days off, yeah, because the place where I do business with, they was closed. So I had no choice other than to take the 4 days off. Right, but yeah, so we had the 4 days off. Absolutely brilliant. But remember the number 64. After 64 years of hurt, Wales have finally made it through to the World Cup finals. Right, and Gareth Bale was absolutely just outstanding, just like a fantastic player, right? But right, the Ukrainians, I would say, yeah, that the Ukrainians outplayed the Welsh, right? But the Welsh goalkeeper was just something else. He was just absolutely outstanding. He was just absolutely outstanding. And the thing with the Welsh, they made their chance and they took their chance. I know it was a free kick, but they took their chance, and and that's what got them over the line. And you see, when you go to the World Cup, yeah, and you've got like one player who's like overly outstanding, right? You can win the World Cup on that basis by having one player, right, who is just much better than everybody else in the team. But all the other team have to be good players. Don't get me wrong here. Because there's a couple of ways of winning the World Cup, and you can win it off of the back of one player. Like Brazil with Pele, right? He was the most outstanding player in a team that had absolutely fantastic players. Right, don't get it twisted. But Pele, he was the one that made the real difference. Right, same with Maradona again. Right, he was the one. But he did have 10 fantastic players behind him as well. Right, so but he was much better than all of them. So that one outstanding player, I think Beckenbauer as well. I think the same type of thing. Right, or you can win it, right, as a team. Right, like Greece. When Greece won it, they played as they just played as one unit and just went all the way through. And they won the European finals, didn't they? They won, right? But and that's how they done it, right? But I would say that Wales have got, because Wales, I would say that Wales are gonna probably want to go further than England. But you're in our group, so when it comes down to it, I'm glad you're there. But when we play you, we're gonna beat your ass. Yeah, that's just how it is. But I do hope that you come through, in second place in the group, of course, because it would be nice, because then after that, right, we could only probably meet in the finals again after that. If we both get through the group stages, then it should only be really the finals that we could, which would be, it would be very nice if we had England and Wales, right, in the finals of the World Cup. That would be like, because then we could say we definitely know it's coming home. just to which part of Britain it's coming home to. The pound has been destroyed, but we knew this already, right? Because the Bank of America has been saying this, right, and right. I've had a message from someone in the Philippines to say, what, they can see from over here the damage that Boris Johnson has done to the pound, because obviously they're feeling it now, because I think they've got the Filipino peso. Why I don't know you'd call your currency the peso, I don't know. You should have called your money the Filipino pound or the Filipino dollar, right? But they went for the Filipino peso, right? And they're really down. Like the pound is really down. So obviously, British migrants who have moved. Can you call people who have retired? No. So we'll have to go with, if you've retired, right, in another country, then we can't call you, because you're not a migrant. You've retired. People who've retired in places like Philippines, are really feeling it now, because obviously their pensions come from over here. So the pound, where the pound's been dented all over the world, right, with all different currencies, the pound's been dented with all different currencies, right. With some it's just been smashed to pieces, but right, with the dollar or the euro, just smashing the pound to pieces right now, right. So, but the things like the Filipino peso, right, obviously they're suffering as well, because as I said, their pound is not going as far as it was before, and obviously that we're in free fall, so I'm expecting the pound to go even lower than it is at the moment, because this country is in just complete free fall, and that you can see that, right, by the state of our pound. So that's why even people as far as the Philippines, who are Brits who have retired in places like that, and they're obviously, if they've retired somewhere like the Philippines, they're obviously going to be pretty well to do. I mean, that's going to be there's no doubt in that. You're not going to retire to the Philippines to go and live like the locals. Right, you're going to retire there because it's a beautiful place, right? And you can live a very comfortable life in somewhere like that. You can live in a very much more affluent part of the Philippines, right? So so it will give you a much better standard of life, with obviously with the weather and stuff like that, so. It's a real shame, but this is what's happening in this country. Our pound is being destroyed on a daily basis. Andrew Neal, He's such a fucking square-headed fool, right? This guy's an absolute jackass, right? You know, I read one of his articles over the weekend, right? And my summary of Andrew Neal's article is that Andrew Neal blames black people for white people's history. And if you don't believe me, just read the article, right? Because that's, you know, that this is where he's come up with all this bullshit. I mean, you know, speaking about statues and Black Lives Matter, and you think to yourself, seriously, get the fuck over yourself, right? Black Lives Matter, right, is not out there, right, for the termination of the white race. Not like the National Front or Pegida or Britain First or the BNP or UKIP. And there's so much more that's out there for the complete destruction of black people and Asian people, right? So I don't understand, right, how these people even open their mouths and even talk about statues that we've got to walk past of our previous persecutors, right? People, right, that raped and murdered our ancestors, whipped, right, imprisoned, right, dragged them to another continent, enslaved. And we've got to walk past the statues and we're just expected to say, oh, it's a lovely statue. What's it stand for? Try explaining to a 10-year-old black child what it stands for. Right? You know what? Right? I say, well, you know what they should do? Leave your statues up there, right? But put a plaque on there and tell them about the evil that what these people have done. Right? Or take the motherfucking thing and put it in a fucking museum. Right? But they want to leave them all out all over the place and don't expect us to look at these things and think this is fucking horrific. Right? You would never expect Jewish people to walk past, right, statues of Adolf Hitler or Goebbels. Right? You wouldn't expect them to start naming roads in Germany, right, after Nazis. Right? But as black people, we have to put up with that bullshit. Right? And then you've got fucking idiots like Andrew Neal who thinks it's appropriate, right, to start mentioning just fucking nonsense. Absolute nonsense, right? You know, this is what I'm saying. I don't understand these people, right? I really don't understand these people. I have to say, there's not enough cannons aimed at us as it is, right? They have to start aiming their intellectual, right, cannons at us as well, right? Not only do we have to have it from the fucking meatheads, right? We have to be getting it from the people who are supposed to be the so-called educated. You know, these people should be using their education for something, right, that serves a real purpose, right? Instead of all this fucking, you know, this racial tension that they're always trying to stir up this racial tension. And I really don't get it because, you know, there's enough reminders of us, of it all, right? We don't need people like Andrew Neal, right, writing articles, right, in major newspapers, you know, just trying to influence, right, you know, in a nasty unharmony racial divide, because these people don't want racial harmony. This is their problem. They don't want that. Right, they'd prefer, right, to stay with their tetchy, right, because that's what these people are. That's the only word that can really describe them, because they're just foolish. They're idiots. They have absolutely not one piece of sense within their head. This is the thing where you have people who are educated, right? Educated people can be fucking stupid. My second favourite part of the Jubilee, right, was Paddington Bear, right, being invited to Buckingham Palace to have tea and a marmalade sandwich with the Queen. Right? And, you know, we never knew the Queen was such a brilliant actress. The Queen, now, as you know, I'm not a royalist. I am a Republican, out and out, right? But I do really admire the Queen. I think the Queen is you know, quite a lady. Do you know what I mean? You know, and 70 years of, you know, there's you know, 70 years of service. Well, say, well, you know, it's not like, you know, it's not like you've been out there, you know, breaking, you know, rocks, or, you know, or you've been in hospitals working, you know, really hard, bending your back over, like, so. And they said, oh, but you know, she does her duty. What the fuck are you talking about? A soldier does their duty. Nurses do their duty, right? You can't be born one of the lucky, probably the luckiest person in the world, right? And then, right? Oh well, you know, it's duty. Come on, give me a fucking break. Seriously, right? Seriously, I don't understand how these people, how they get away with this, how they get away with this bullshit. You know, that's her duty. So seriously, her duty, all right? 70 years, right, of walking into buildings that smell of fresh paint, right, and everywhere you go, freshly polished, right, and you know, you know, your own trains, planes, so many Rolls Royces and Range Rovers, right, and it's all like, it's all duty. Give me a break. But as I said, right, my favourite part was the was Paddington going, you know, to go and thank the Queen for what she's done for the country, and at least now we know exactly what the Queen keeps in her in her in her handbag, right? Because the Queen keeps a marmalade sandwich in her handbag. Right? So it was, you know, and nobody had heard anything about that. Right? I never watched it. That's the only two parts of Jubilee I watched, but only because like I just heard about those about that, and I did watch Diversity as well. Right. But I watched it. I just caught all of it up on like YouTube. I never watched any of it live, you know. So you know, so yeah. So that was my favourite part of the Jubilee, was to see, you know, Paddington, right, who was from Peru, in fact, and obviously he's a British folk hero now, Paddington. But under this current administration, if Paddington had made his way, right, over on a boat, right, because obviously he's from Peru, so he may have had some problems, you know, getting over here in the first place. So so he might have had to make his way to France and then make his way over on a dinghy, where he would have been greeted, right, by Priti Patel, who would have taken Paddington's ass and taken him straight to Rwanda. So we would have had Paddington with the Queen. There would have been no Paddington with the Queen if Priti Patel had had her way. So, and then Prince William gave a speech. And you know what really gets me about these people is just the fucking cheek of them. The absolute cheek of these people. For them to turn around to us and say, you need to watch your fucking carbon footprint, you fucking lemmings. Watch your carbon footprint. How dare you not watch your... You make sure, right, that you don't suck up too much of the atmosphere, right? Because it's people like you that is ruining the world. You've completely ruined it. This is what Prince William's speech was basically saying to us. They say, is it not enough for you to suck so much of the fucking world's money up, right? And now, right, you're speaking as a person who's living in fucking castles and palaces and lodges and massive fucking houses and, you know, whatever's big, right, in retail, they're living in it. Right? And they've got the fucking cheek to turn around to us and tell us to watch our carbon footprint. Seriously. Are you having a fucking... You know, I'll tell you something, yeah? If the royals do not get, right, some advisors like me, they need to get me as an advisor, because I could show them the way, yeah, that they could be in power for the next 1,000 years. Right? But if not, yeah, these motherfuckers are going to be gone soon. Right? Not in our lifetimes, you know, because obviously, like, you know, if you can outlive, what's William's son, George? I think. If you can outlive George or William, in fact William, because William's got, you know, because obviously Charles is going to be, Charles is what, in his 70s, so Charles is going to be there, and then William's going to take over, right? And then obviously George, right? So I mean, if you could, it might, by the time George gets down to George, it's going to be a complete different monarchy. But these people really need to change who the fuck they are, because when you're from a family, yeah, who goes around, right, in fucking helicopters all over the place, because these lot was jumping, for the Jubilee, they're jumping around in helicopters and small aeroplanes, right? But yet for all, they're telling us about our carbon footprint. And say, how are you kicking up such a fucking carbon footprint? And you've got the cheek to stand on stage and tell us about. Are you having a fucking laugh? Seriously, you don't want to get involved in environmental matters when you are kicking up such a when each member of the royal family, right, is probably got the carbon footprint of 10,000 people, each member of the royal family, and might even be more than that, each member of the royal family. Because when you look at like someone like Eugenie and her sister Beatrice and Eugenie, for example, right, these girls, right, go on holiday, right, 20, 30 times a year, and I'm not even joking, right? They're on holiday every other week, literally, right? And they're doing full-time jobs as well, right, with big companies like Sony and places like that. Right, and they, right, have so many holidays. You wouldn't believe the amount of holidays that they have, right? And for them, and for these people, for these royals to be telling us, right, about our, right, that I say is a real liberty, right? Because what they need to do, right, if they really want to get involved in shit, they really need to get involved in politics. Now, I'm not saying they should start saying, that we vote for this person, we vote for that person. No. Just get involved in politics and shame the government of the day. That's it, right? They've had perfect opportunities throughout this whole decade, right? So much things have gone wrong in this country, right? And they could have really increased their popularity by getting with the people and start saying to the government, listen. For example, Hammersmith Bridge. They should have been going down to Hammersmith Bridge and just saying to the government, listen, this is not good enough. Get it salted. Get this bridge open. Now, get it open, right? That's what they should be, just shaming the government into these things, right? Going to the food banks and saying, listen, this is not good enough. We shouldn't have food banks in this country. How can you be giving our family £80 million a year and castles and palaces, and all these fancy cars and all this fancy jewellery, right? How can you be giving up all of us that, right, when we've got food banks in the country? That's the type of stuff they should be doing. And if they want to survive, the future, that's what they should be doing. Getting out with real people, right, and shaming the government of the day, whatever the government is of the day, right? Whatever they see going wrong in the country, they should be saying, no, this is not good enough, right? They should be getting involved in our pound and saying to God, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Really, the Queen should have been saying to Boris Johnson all the time, no. Are you sick? Taking us out of the EU? Are you fucking crazy? That's what the Queen should have been saying to him. No, you're not taking this country out of the EU. The Queen should have told him. Do you know what I mean? And Boris Johnson should have come back to the country and said, sorry, we can't do it. And not give no reason why, but just said no. Because the Queen should have stepped in and said, listen, you can't, no, this is not happening. But no. So that's why the royal family, right, think that they can stand there, right, and lecture us about people's carbon footprint. I just say, don't lecture us about environmental problems, because you're going to fucking lose that argument, because it's a ridiculous argument for you to make. But who come and stole the show? Meghan and Harry, right? The Prince Harry. He is still Prince Harry. She didn't take his HRH, did she? Because he was born Prince Harry. Prince Harry and well, she's the Duchess of Sussex, isn't it? So he's the Duchess of Sussex, I think. Right. So yeah, them two just come and literally just stole the show at the Jubilee. People. I think obviously the Queen must have been very, very happy to see them, and I think quite a few people was very, very happy to see them. So it was nice to see them back in the country, and they seemed to go down very, very well. So they seemed to start, and I think it was, which one of the kids was Steve? Was it George? Must have been George, isn't it? That was just on the balcony with the Queen, right? Because I saw images of that, right, and him just making faces. But yeah, so Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, they was back for a little while, and I don't know if Netflix was following them, but they could have, right? And then we had the group Animal Rebellion, who went up there, right, to make a complete nuisance of themselves and threw themselves in front of like the parade, yeah. And you know the police was there very very fast, right, to fling these people out of the way, right. But when I tell you the police was in there really quick, right, because obviously the bands was coming through, right, and you know I think they're the Queen's Guard, isn't it? Right? And let me tell you, right, you never ever want to get in the way of the Queen's Guard, right? Like the beefeaters and them, right? Don't ever get in their way when you see them marching through, right? If you're around by Buckingham Palace or wherever they are, or Windsor, wherever they are, right? I can't remember where they are, right? But if you're around there and you see them, right, don't ever, right, be stupid enough to stand in their way, because they just walk straight through, right? They just all you just see them coming, right? Well, you don't know. I've seen videos of them, right, where the person hasn't even seen them coming, right, and the Queen's Guard has seen that person hasn't seen them coming, right, and they're just like, when they get to you, right, they'll just give you the biggest shove you've ever received, right, and they'll just say, "Make way for the Queen's Guard." while you're flying back, right? So these people are quite lucky. Animal Rebellion are quite lucky, right, that it wasn't actually the Queen's Guard, it was the police that actually got in front, because like the Queen's Guard, they're not easy at all, and they will just like, they just literally just throw you as far as they can out of the way, right? It has gone to £8 a pint in London. Wow. So when you go out for a night in London, yeah, well, basically you need to take out a second mortgage. But to be honest, right, you know, a second mortgage in London it would be right. But £8 a pint. £8 a pint. I'm glad I'm not a drinker, right? Because at £8 a pint, right, I'd say that's got to be too much. At £8 a pint, that's got to be too much. £8 a pint in London, and I know, like in other parts of the country, yeah, it's like might be £3 something and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But £8 a pint, wow, that's completely craziness. Boris Johnson was interviewed by Mumsnet, right? And his first question was, "Are you a motherfucking liar?" That was the first question they asked. And Boris Johnson probably thought he was going there because it's called Mumsnet. He thought, you know, loads of totty, I'll be able to charm the ladies and get away with a nice little interview, which won't go too badly. And his first question was, "Why are you such a motherfucking liar?" They just, in that interview, yeah, he got absolutely crushed on the interview. Mumsnet absolutely smashed to pieces. Manchester Airport has banned the press from entering the airport at Manchester, right? Because things are in so much chaos in Manchester Airport that they've had to say to the press, "You know what? Don't come in here. You're not coming in here," right? In the same way, yeah, that under King's Cross and St Pancras, yeah, people are queuing underneath the station, and no one even knew that you could queue underneath the station. That's how far the queues are, right? At King's Cross St Pancras, right, people wanted to take the Eurostar or whatever the hell they want to call it, right? But every single thing, right, there's people, right, stuck in places like in Spain, in Italy, in France, because they can't get back, right, to England, to Britain. They can't get back, right? And all because, right, you people wanted to put, with your racist, stupid ass self, wanted to put an absolute clown show in 10 Downing Street. And this is what you get, right? When you put your clown show in, right, thinking that you're going to get your racist way, right, this is what happens, right? Because every single one of these populist leaders, right, all of them, right, have got all of them are incompetent, right? Every single one of these populist leaders, if you notice, because all of them work off of a racist structure. And once you work off of that, right, you're always going to start destroying your country, right? In the same way how Donald Trump, over his 4 years, look at the destruction that he done in America, right? Imagine if he'd got 8 years, right, it would have been so much worse, right? So look at, right, now you look at over here, right, they're putting a populist leader. Populist leaders are all right wing, right? And populism, right, is racism, right? Because if it was popular, right, then much more of the country would be behind it. You would have, if it was really popular, you would have probably 90% of the country, right? It's the reason why Aswad was in pop music, not in reggae music, even though there was a reggae band. But their music was popular. So it's in the pop charts, not just in the obscure reggae charts, right? Where no white people are gonna know who the fuck they are, apart from if you're into reggae music as a white person, right? Because of the charts, what they're in, right? Now, most white people would know Aswad, but they wouldn't know Sugar Minot. Okay, because they're in complete different charts. One's popular and everybody can enjoy it, right? And one's niche. It's the reggae charts. It's set at a certain market. And if you move that over into politics now, right? Your popular, right, is always your populist leaders are always racist leaders, always, right? You haven't got any left-wing populist leaders, have you? And the reason why, right, is because if they would be popular, not populist. They'd be popular leaders. So where you've got we started that on Manchester Airport and the person who you've put in charge of this country, where you've put this complete clown show, right, in charge of this country, right? Now we've got places like Manchester Airport telling the press, you can't come in to see what's going on in here. Gatwick is in chaos. Heathrow is in chaos. Okay, all of our major airports are completely blocked up, right? And now, right, they're all going to be blocked up with people trying to get back into this country. And I blame you, racist idiots, for voting in the way that you vote in this country. Because you vote fucking stupid. You vote against your own interest, right? And now, right, we're in a state where the press have to be kept out of the scenarios what's going on, which makes it even worse, because they should just really let the press in because it makes it worse that we know that the press have been blocked from going in there. It makes it worse because we're thinking, well, what the hell is going on in there? We know what's going on in there anyway. It's not like we don't know. But, it's the same with Dover. Look how they're not showing us Dover. They're not showing us anything what's going on in Dover. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Because they know it's all to do with Brexit. All of it. It's all Brexit. Again, the government are blaming the travel industry for the state of the travel industry. So, okay. But where would you expect them to get staff from? This is what I mean. Where do you expect them to get staff from? Because you're blaming them for the state of their industry when you are the people who have destroyed their industry, right? With your policies. Your policies has destroyed their industry. The whole world, right, is recovering from COVID, from the pandemic. The whole world's recovering from that. So things have been disturbed around the whole world. Everywhere in the world, things have been disturbed. But if you notice, for us, everything is more than double. right? There might be, there might be queues, for, with staff and things like that in America, right? But most of that is going to be down to most of that is truly going to be down to COVID, right? But we have it double as bad. Everything for us is double, right? And all of that is to do with Brexit, right? It's to do with anything else, right? The reason why it's more than double for us is all down to Brexit, right? But if you notice, all the things, they're just, as I said, they're just hiding all the stuff now, right? There's nothing about Dover. There's nothing about, they're reporting on the airports, but that's the airports you can get in, because very soon, actually, because we're coming out of the holiday season now, so everything should start to calm down now until we get to July, when we've got the 6 weeks holidays, and then we're going to see more travel chaos again. This is a guarantee, right? Even though they've got all this time, they've got like a good month to try and get it sorted, they're not going to be able to sort it. That's the problem. They're never ever going to be able to sort it at all. So that's where they're going to be. And the migrants that are to be sent to Rwanda have gone on hunger strike, and the government have said, we're going to send you even quicker because you've gone on hunger strike. But remember they let some of the IRA people just die anyway. Do you know what I mean? I think Bobby Sands, they're just allowed to die from hunger strike anyway back in the day. Do you know what I mean? So you got to imagine this government can be kind of callous. And the weakness of the UK's position shaped the Northern Ireland Protocol negotiations, says David Frost. Really? So you're just coming out and saying that now, right? After all the time, right? This man was saying before, after all the time, he was there pushing the negotiations, right? And now he's saying that Britain was so weak at the time, right, that he couldn't actually negotiate with them, and that's the reason why they had to do this completely crap deal. Daniel Hannan has said the UK should have never left the single market. Staying in the single market would have saved a lot of problems. This is something that I'm sure that we all knew, right? But if it wasn't for the absolute foolishness of the people of this country, right, to have voted for something, right, that was going to completely destroy the country, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in. But we're in this position now, right, because of, right, the absolute car crash of a government, right, and the car crash of a leader that you racist fools voted in. Anyway, guys, look, I've been on, but I haven't done a video for a good 4 days now, so small mercies. But anyway, I've got to bow out of here. This is By Any Means Necessary. I'm DMC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.